Mwambia hawa sisi hatuwezi tenganisha hiyo harusi yao. Kama ni kutenganisha, wote wawili waende.
Mtu wa kwanza ambaye angelifaa kujiweka katika orodha ya kutimuliwa ni Mheshimiwa Rais Ruto mwenyewe. Jinsi amepanga serikali. Wanaposema Gachagua ni mfisadi, Gachagua ni mkabila, basi Ruto ni mkabila kuliko mtu yote Kenya.
Kwa nini tunakataa dereva, tunaondolewa makanga? Kama makanga anaenda, dereva pia aende. Na tangu lini sisi kama wananchi wa Kenya tunachaguliwa deputy president kule kwa bunge?
So, those are the sentiments of Kenyans from different parts of the country. Now, we took a break, but we didn't quite take the break because the conversation continued. And I know, Akili, there's something you want to tie, but I also need to listen to Fred and Diana. But what is it? Because Kenyans are saying remove both, yet we know that Parliament is dealing with a motion that is specific to regard the Gachagua.
Very briefly, Sam, I have no problem, and no Kenyan should have a problem with a motion to remove the president or any other member of the cabinet. But the point I'm emphasizing is this. That motion is not the subject, that intended motion is not the subject of today's conversation, and is not the subject of the impeachment. Gachagua will not be saved because other people are more corrupt than him. He will not be saved because kufa dereva, kufa makanga. And I'm telling you, as a political question, in terms of conceptual clarity, Sam, impeachment is political as it is legal. I have clarified that as a political question, if the president feels that there is gross insubordination, or the political party in power feels there is gross insubordination by the deputy president as against the president, impeachment can happen at that level. Number two, impeachment is also legal in the sense that as other than making sure that due process safeguards is respected, on the legal question, and I've raised only one, even if the president wished to protect the deputy president, we cannot accept or rationalize a conversation that makes us tolerate some very divisive, dangerous ethnic politics just because everyone is doing it. We cannot rationalize, we cannot accept divisive ethnic politics. Mr. Gachagua has said publicly, and is falling on his own sword, that this is a government by shareholding. Okay. And I've clarified this, Sam. That statement is not only reckless and dangerous, it runs counter to the principles established in the Constitution. It offends the preamble, it offends Article 10, it offends Article 131, and if the court is invited to review that ground only, which is ground one, and he's impeached on that ground, the court will have no hesitation in upholding that. So I think if the deputy president wanted to escape this impeachment, he would focus on the political question, apologize in private to the president, make a joint appearance with the president, and mobilize the numbers in parliament to then save him. Then Kenyans will be left disgruntled. Because whether we'll be left disgruntled or not is not in doubt. The fact that someone has escaped accountability for very dangerous and ethnic utterances is something that will demoralize us in the future. But we leave it the politician. If National Assembly tomorrow morning debates and approves this motion and it moves the Senate and is tried and impeached, I have no doubt as a practicing advocate that if the court were to audit the merits and the procedure of this impeachment, one issue will not be debated. The issue of ethnic incitement, which runs contrary to the national...
You're saying if the president wanted to protect the president, if the president wanted to protect the deputy president...
Aguendo...
So it's okay, I had that. I'm just wondering. So what do you think he wants?
I don't want to speculate, but I'm telling you, I don't speculate what the president may think, but I can tell you, if the president wished to lend support to the deputy president, the first thing that would happen is a joint appearance. Because then that would pacify feelings.
Does he have a role in this impeachment?
He has no role.
In assessment so far?
The president does not have a direct role in the impeachment.
Okay.
But remember, the numbers that are going to impeach the president will be from Kenya Kwanza and partly from ODM that form now the broad-based government. So as a political question, Sam,
yep,
I can tell you, if that apology was received as honest, if Gachagua's apology was received as honest, a conversation would emerge that would then quietly puncture the process of impeachment.
All right.
That's a political issue.
That's fine. Diana, if you look at the grounds, the 11, I noticed there was a problem with the numbering in the motion itself. But anyway, what was published and Kenyans asked for their views were 11 grounds, including that a gross violation of different articles of the Constitution and very heavy on the ethnicity question. What do you think should be the threshold here as Parliament considers this? Is it about the legal perspectives that are being raised here, or is it more of the emotional bit and what would appear politically convenient based on the current timings?
I think Parliament will take a route of political expediency as opposed to justice. Because if we were to look at the grounds of ethnicity, Parliament should already have audited all appointments, because that is more scientific to analyze whether we are an inclusive state or we are still a state of ethnic nationality. Increasingly, all appointments and even the pending position of cabinet secretary gender is, we are informed, is going to be distributed on an ethnic matrix. We have always tried to balance political interests. The Big Five have always benefited and trumped on the minority. Now, Parliament and their numbers currently, not a Gen Z Parliament, the current Parliament is a very ethnic Parliament. We have tried to create very many terminologies, broad-based, national government of national grand unity, national coalition, everything, BBI, handshake, we have tried. But the place of ethnicity in this country has remained so deep-rooted that it became normalized. Now, it is a bit shocking that the same people who just operate on the basis of ethnicity are now the loudest. For me, as a Kenyan who believes in the constitutional values, this is welcome. It is a new bar. But the minute they place it for us, I am not operating on the judiciary, Parliament, I am on Article 1. As Diana, lately I am operating on Article 1. So I am more with the people of Kenya and what they are seeing as opposed to what is happening in the August House. Never again the August House. We do not have an August House for this particular term of Parliament. So what has happened to them and even how they are voting, look at it, Sam. It's been barely a month since they approved of a cabinet of people who went back to their villages for ethnic and family approval and lobbying. But that was okay. Then we had a whole institution of cabinet which comprises the president, the deputy president, and all cabinet secretary who thrived on ethnic mobilization. That was set aside. The conflict of interest bill was in the Senate that is supposed to drive the impeachment motion. They did not see it then. Now they see it. This is purely political expediency. But once they set the bar and impeach, yes, we shall be there to remind them of everybody else who must vacate and not serve our nation because they do not merit according to our constitution.
I agree.
And Fred, so you look at it, and he raised the question about the insubordination of the president, and you look at the grounds that have been given there.
Yeah.
So contradicting the president in public despite positions that have been taken in cabinet, case in point, the Nairobi Rivers Commission, and I think the war on illicit alcohol. Where does collective responsibility depart, or rather, what is the separation between collective responsibility and freedom of expression?
Thank you, Sam. The proponents of Kufa Dereva, Kufa Makanga should be very worried. Because in the template of collecting views that was used in the process of public participation in this instance, had a section of others unspecified. I checked randomly. Yeah. You could see online, and even those who are participating, they said that impeach both. That is an admission that Gachagua is also at fault and therefore should be impeached. Number two, if you look at the ground two, the deputy president is the principal assistant to the president, Article 147. Then you look at Article 151, yep. He sits in the cabinet. The decisions that are made in cabinet are binding all cabinet members, and as such, they become a policy that extends to the provision of services. If the deputy president, for one or two reasons, went and contradicted a decision that was collectively made in the cabinet, therefore, that in my view, and I said I'll be very objective and professional, in my view, as Okango, that is insubordination. In the instance of Nairobi River and many others. Number three, the deputy president is a member of National Security Council. And if, for whatever reason, he felt that he has a problem with one of the members of that integral part of our security organ, then he would not have gone in public to demean, undermine, and disparage the same. In my view, again, that is insubordination. So and that person is appointed by the president, remember. I hold the view that the members of parliament, as much as this is a political process, and I repeat, Gachagua has the advantage of appearing before the National Assembly, where the Constitution of Kenya does not explicitly provide for such, but he will appear there tomorrow to put a case. That gives an advantage to the extent that he is able to show Kenyans that all these allegations, the charge sheet as drafted, is not meriting my impeachment. Even though the mover of the motion has said all these grounds are impeachable. But when you read the Constitution of Kenya, and I would want to plead with my good friend Ndegwa, not to feel like some of us are really for the impeachment of Gachagua. I am referring to the issues as drafted, the motion as is today. Right. That motion has highlighted, number one, the conduct of Gachagua as a state officer. Has his conduct, the utterances that he has made that are threatening to discriminate and also to exclude some people unlawfully, have there been there? It is in public knowledge that he has said before that this government is for the shareholders. That conduct alone is not
okay. It has to do the question about insubordination and freedom of expression. Yes. I'm looking at Article 32 of the Constitution.
Yes.
That every person has the right to freedom of conscience, religion, thought, belief, and opinion. Then Article 33, every person has the right to freedom of expression, which includes freedom to seek, receive, or impart information, ideas.
Correct.
Where do you draw the line? Because yes, you're talking about collective responsibility, but it is possible, and questions are being asked to people that didn't believe in what was being done by institutions they were sitting in. What did they do about it?
Steve will tell you that those rights are also limited to an extent. But I think my approach would be, was there a better way of communicating whatever he wanted to communicate in a responsible manner, in a manner that not spur ethnic emotions, or in a manner that would not interfere with the process of how the systems govern themselves and the people? There was. And therefore, I would want
to be what?
Probably he would have not gone out and openly opposed or appear to be opposing a decision that they made collectively, probably. Maybe he would have said that in his view as a leader, he thinks that there's an alternative of giving the people that were supposed to be removed from that area and give them an alternative, maybe. But I don't want to go to the medicine.
Is it possible that things can go wrong between the president and the deputy within cabinet?
We have seen that before. It is very possible. It is possible they can differ.
And if you're the junior officer, how do you express yourself?
You know, we believe, the Kenya Kwanza government told us that they are an open government, they're consultative.
Yeah.
They said that they consult more than once. The president himself has told us that they speak. The deputy president more than once has told us that he consulted with his president before all this. So I think he would have gone back and asked the president, that decision that they collectively made, was it in the interest of minority? And let me finish by saying this, Sam. I am aware that this is largely political process. As a politician, I've also divorced myself from it. But I'm also aware that it's a legal process. Now, if the defendants of the defense team of Gachagua would want to help him, I would advise them not to go into issues that are so open and obvious. The issues of shareholding have been obvious and open. Everyone know, including a 2-year-old, know that he once said that this is a shareholders' government. The young people of this country know that the deputy president has made certain remarks to an extent that has excluded a certain region or certain people. So please help him. Don't make him.
I hear you. Keep going back to the round one. Yes, okay.
Yes, Sam, I must see that the question of the allegations of ethnic mobilization is meant to achieve the objective of paralyzing the process, balkanizing the process, and excluding a particular community. Where
also?
Yes, where the deputy president comes from. Why do I say so? When you go...
Sorry,
yes.
The impeachment motion, round one on ethnicity...
is meant to exclude and polarize. You have seen...
One community.
People, yes, where the deputy president comes from.
Why?
When Raila Odinga was granted an opportunity of appointing cabinet secretaries, he appointed 2 of his ethnic extractions. There was no up, hue and cry. Remember, Raila Odinga got votes even in Mount Kenya region. He never had an opportunity of even seeing any person from Mount Kenya region who was fit to become a CS in this particular government. For him, he went for the same ethnic extractions. Number 2.
But Raila is not an appointing authority.
Where this government was constituted on the basis of exclusion. Remember, it's a government that was constituted on the basis of the hustlers concept, the hustlers ideology. That hustlers concept and ideology, Mama Mboga and Mama Baiskeri and Mama Skuma, excluded the majority of us from government. Because it's not everybody else who works in that particular field. And that is why you saw there was over 8 million votes who never turned up to vote because they felt excluded. So they were excluded even on the basis of their own economic orientations. So now when it comes to the deputy president speaking about shareholding, he's speaking about the shareholding of the individuals whom the ideology targeted. And that is what he was simply meaning. Now that he has been turned all of a sudden to mean that the shareholding concept, he was addressing the Mount Kenya people. You cannot form a broad-based government by excluding other ethnic extractions.
That's true.
This ethnic sentiment is meant to show as if the deputy president was advocating for the Mount Kenya region. Ask yourself, was advocating for the Mount Kenya region. Ask yourself, there is what is called the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. That National Cohesion and Integration Commission is the one that is mandated to advising or to giving red alerts about any ethnic mobilization, ethnic exclusions. Have we had any report from them saying that the deputy president's sentiments were meant to whip ethnic sentiments? How can a mere MP, in the absence of a constitutional organ report, say that there was ethnic mobilization, yet the constitutional organ has not given that particular? Let me tell you, from the sentiments...
An institution, does it stop citizens from thinking?
It doesn't stop. No. But it should inform the process because they are the ones who have been granted the constitutional mandate of evaluating whether the country is cohesive.
When you agree that some sentiments might be might result to that exclusion, politics of exclusion.
Yes, it has. They can. And the unfortunate
what
thing...
What is the remedy for those sentiments?
The remedy for these sentiments is to make sure that the head itself speaks from the concept of national unity.
Sorry, what are you saying?
The president himself must lead the pack in unifying the country. Look at how he appointed his cabinets recently.
How about the one of those sentiments?
The one of like those of the deputy president.
Yes.
There is what you did ask Okango, and he never responded. Mm-hmm. Where does this border between the freedom of expression and the freedom of speech? Mm-hmm. And where does it also border the ability to own your own consciousness and hold an opinion? Is a constitutional right. Under Article 24, which speaks about limitation, it has not clarified whether that is a limited right. However, you are told, if your sentiment results into a manner that may mobilize the country to set a certain dimension, then the institutions responsible should take actions as against that. So there is all these arguments of ethnic mobilization, ethnic sentiments, they are baseless. They are meant to whip emotions. Because when you mention the question of emotions, ethnicity in this country, emotions are raised up. Let me ask you, if the president himself was not perpetuating this ethnic mobilization, why did he appoint 7 CSs who are from Mount Kenya region? I mean, he should have gone and give a Druma somewhere. He should have gone and give a courier somewhere 1 seat. The other one should have gone to somewhere, perhaps to I mean, the 7 positions should not have gone to one commission, to one community.
But that's not one community, Wakili.
Sorry, there were 7.
Not one community.
There were 7 positions that were given to Mount Kenya community. Why? As a reward for political mobilization.
With the ethnic diversity that the Constitution speaks about, Mount Kenya, the 7 cabinet secretaries you're talking about, they don't all speak the same language, do they?
They don't, but they are balkanized in one community called the Mount Kenya community. They don't. But when you speak about ethnic mobilization, when Deputy President is accused, he's not accused of speaking about ethnicity of the Kikuyu extractions. He's also accused of speaking about the entire Mount Kenya region, because that is what he has been accused of. Usiguze Mulima. Mulima is not the Kikuyus. Mulima is the Embus, the Kambas, the Mulima, the Merus, they are the Chukas. So these guys are not genuine. Honorable Excellency Gachagua is a victim of circumstances, and he must be brought out not for purpose of addressing the constitutional requirements, but for political expediency come 2027. And I wonder how people can change. Okanga the other day, he was even lifting me with a chopper when we were fighting this government. He was one of the proponents as against the policy that this government is pushing.
I am still.
Now, because they're in broad-based government, for him, he has chosen to see no evil. He has chosen to see no evil, to hear no evil, and to speak no evil about this government. Now, let people not be accused. Let people not be accused. Let him not be made a victim of circumstances on ethnicity. Let me just go briefly to the question of public participation.
I need to circulate I'll get to public participation. But,
because public participation,
I'll get to it.
All right.
Wakili Ogola, so oath of allegiance, the act on economic crimes, that the wealth has risen to 5.2 billion. Well, during the public debates for the deputy president election, the deputy president said he was worth 800 million shillings. The mover of the motion is saying that now he has wealth of up to 5.2 billion shillings. Clearly, some work needs to be done here. He has given a statement saying that part of the property he's being accused of owning is what is contained in the will of his late brother, the former governor of Nyeri, Derito Gachagua. How do you prove this? What is the threshold for such a charge, which nothing stops the institutions in the country from prosecuting Gachagua?
The short answer is the Constitution has characterized that question as reasonable suspicion. Somebody has posed a question that he fears that Mr. Gachagua has amassed so much wealth within a short period of time. And he speculates, and I'm using that word deliberately, to be in excess of 5 billion. I think if we were looking for an honest response, Sam, the honest response would be to publicly make his wealth known and say, no. Next time you want to speculate, please speculate correctly. I am worth 500 million and not 5 billion. And I think then when MPs go to the ballot, to vote on that question, they would then take that response into account. But there's a pressing problem I see. And at least at the very minimum, I want the record of this conversation to capture my mind correctly. I want to distinguish the broad questions that Kenyans may raise about the state of governance or the state of the country. They're very legitimate concerns. Contradistinguish that from the issues facing Gachagua. And my response is, the questions that have been posed to Mr. Gachagua, which could lead to his impeachment, must be responded with facts well within his knowledge, very precise, targeted response that is not broad, that does not rope in other people. If there is a question of divisive politics, you do not respond to it by saying, but everyone is divisive. No, that's not the right response. The right response is, you got me out of context. If you have been accused of insubordination of the president, the response can't be, but everyone is doing it. The right response is, no, play that clip back so that you get the context right. If you have been accused of primitive accumulation of wealth, you do not say, but look at other CSs. Everyone is stealing. You say, no, this is my audited wealth. And you mistook it for someone else. If you have been accused of violation of the Constitution, gross violation of the Constitution, by attacking critical institutions that underpin our security, you do not say freedom of speech, because freedom of speech, Article 25, Sam, provides a short list of rights that may not be limited. The right to habeas corpus, and there are only 4. The right to habeas corpus, the right to fair trial, freedom from slavery and servitude, and then freedom from cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment. Any other right is subject to limitation as per the Constitution ordained. You do not say, this is, when you sit somewhere in Mombasa,
and who defines the limitation?
The limitation is already circumscribed by the court, by the Constitution. Article 25, there is what you can't debate. You can debate the right to fair trial, and if Gachagua goes to court, that part will be audited, because that right is not limited.
Because freedom of expression is not limited.
Yes,
the limitation is also in the Constitution, isn't it?
The limitation, the standard there is that of a reasonable man.
No, that's not the test. No, that is not the test. The test is misleading our viewers. The test, yes, but he's misleading our viewers. That is not the test.
Mr. Gachagua,
that is not the test.
Mr. Gachagua, I earn a living by practicing law only.
Yes.
I don't do anything else.
We too do. We too do earn our living from that perspective.
Now,
sorry, Wakili.
Article 25 provides a short list of rights that may not be limited. Freedom of expression is not in Article 25. How do you, if I get your question correctly, then how do you limit, who frames how to limit Article 25? Other articles that fall outside Article 25, like freedom of expression. And I've told you, courts have said, on case-by-case basis, what is reasonable in the circumstances. We have to audit that action and say, so I cannot give you a general answer that covers all scenarios, you understand? But you have to ask yourself, in the context of this particular utterance, is it within the permissible limits of freedom of expression? If you provide a rational response, and a rational response has been said by the Supreme Court in Governor Sonko case, that when the politicians are doing their thing and they're impeaching, the courts will be slow to puncture the process. But if they must, this slow to puncture, it doesn't mean the courts can't puncture. The courts can puncture, can injunct, can countervail, can reverse. Governor Kawera is in office thanks to judicial intervention. But
you mean the courts can actually look at the merits of the...
Yes. The courts can puncture the process if there is a compelling reason not just any reason. If the reason for impeachment is rational, then the court would be hesitant, to interfere with that. And a rational decision would look like this. You have not defended yourself well for driving a divisive agenda. And we think that runs contrary to Article 131. We therefore impeach on that ground. The court would be hesitant to interfere with that. But let me give you an example that works for Gachagua for balance. If you say you want to impeach him, for instance, for primitive accumulation of wealth, and he says, no, my wealth declaration puts it at 500 million, I have not been summoned by ESCC or DCI to answer to these other ones. I think that looks like a reasonable response to me. You understand? Because he says, this is my declared wealth. You want to impeach me on speculation. That looks like a reasonable response. A reasonable response doesn't mean, look, you are accusing me of accumulating 5.2 billion, but look at my colleagues.
Okay.
Understand?
All right, I hear you. Diana, so I'll get to you, Wakili Ndegwa. But Diana, the question of contradicting the president, I like to think that there's a reason why the cabinet is comprised of the president, deputy president, up to 22 cabinet secretaries, attorney general, and you have the secretary to the cabinet, of course, appointed through the constitutional provisions. There's a reason why the cabinet is more than one person. So if a decision is taken and a member of the cabinet does not believe in that collective action, what should they do?
For actions of cabinet, there is definitely collective responsibility. And that organ operates in a united way. You can voice your dissatisfaction. The same way we criticize, say, a legislation, a judicial decision, you can criticize it, but you cannot undermine it. That would be my my view on cabinet collective decisions and things like that. Definitely the president steers. The deputy president would be part of that process. They may have opposing views, but once the decision is taken, is a collective one. But before you do that, I am mainly a human rights lawyer and an activist, and I'd just like Kenyans to know that limitation of human rights is very, very specific, extremely specific. Before you limit it, the Constitution does not leave it to anybody's imagination. From the nature of the limitation, the purpose for it, how long, all those things must be clearly described before we can try and limit a fundamental right or freedom. When you think about freedom of expression, and some of us like to link it to the right to life. When you're born, the first thing the doctors check is if you're crying. You must express yourself. It is so linked to it is so linked to active citizenship, and linked to what you have asked about what happens to a deputy president or a former president. When you're holding power, you have a certain responsibility. And at that point, you hold authority. But your duty to be a citizen is eternal. And at that point, you can express yourself in any way. Unfortunately, to be honest, the president, the deputy president, is a citizen. But he also holds a very important constitutional office of deputy president and cannot exercise his right to citizenship the same way I would. He would still be bound by other obligations of cabinet. Okay? So that would be the balance that we are trying to make. But freedom of expression, please, you know we have been limited before, including yourself as members of the press. And in limiting, you must never derogate. So it is not about reasonableness. It is about furthering the highest possible enjoyment of any right that is to be limited. And luckily, we do not limit fair trial. We do not limit cruelty and torture, things like that. Everything to safeguard your other rights that may be limited is safeguarded and cannot be limited.
So if, let me not use an example while we have one in the motion, because it's saying in March 2023, at a public forum in the Nyanza region, the president said Kenya belongs to all, notwithstanding how people voted in the 2022 general election, and that he would ensure the government does not discriminate against anyone. However, His Excellency Gachagua, speaking after the president at another public forum, contradicted him by saying that Kenya is like a company where the provision of government services is based on shares. So contradicting the president, so that's an offense?
By the way, contradicting the president, and how? I don't know why Kenyans are being ignorant and being played to political trickery. If we are to interrogate the extent, definitely what you utter as a public figure is very, very important. But when, that this country is inclusive, is it? Is this country inclusive on ethnic, class? Are the hustlers even included in this government? No. When we say a certain ethnic community is included, it is that ethnic elite. When every day we are listing who is heading parastatals, commissions, and so on, and analyzing, 2-3 communities are permanently at the top. When people say they are in horror because of what is happening in Hola and Tana River, is this country inclusive? Who is in charge of this country? Who is the leader? It is the president working together with the deputy president. So this selective, it is amnesia, application of values, virtues, vices, is actually annoying to us as Kenyans. And we must go incisively for where, if we are to correct this country, we have not forgotten what we demanded starting in June. It is the same threshold we have. Gosh, even the argument, how is that what we are measuring? Is that what we are measuring when we know what has been caucused and taken away from this country in all these deals, from this shifsha that is going to exclude people from accessing a right to Adani? Can they stop distracting us with this is English, this is bad English, bad analogy, bad scripting? Please, just respect us as Kenyans. We are not stupid.
And bad drafting for what it is worth. And I say so because I have handled over 5 impeachments, 3 of them successively, and there is a way we structure the motions. For example, there is no law in the Republic of Kenya that I know of, perhaps in the east of Sahara and south of Limpopo, that you can be accused of contradicting the president. First of all, anybody crafting that preposition or that motion is of a misconceived idea that the president is above the law. The president is not above the law. We are all equal before the law pursuant to Article 27. And the president is not the beholder of ideas to the extent that his ideas are always perfect and that any other person's ideas must be suppressed to allow the president's ideas to reign supreme. That must go to the mind of the Kenyans and, most importantly, the person pushing that ideology. How do you say that a person is guilty of contradicting a president? Which law provides for that? Which law outlaws that? Number 2. The question of expression, and I want to just start from catch up from where Council has left, and read to you Article 24, so that for the benefit of Steve, he may not selectively read the Constitution and mislead our viewers on the test of how a right must be limited. A right or a fundamental freedom in the Bill of Rights shall not be limited except by law, and then only to the extent that the limitation is reasonable and justifiable in an open and democratic society based on human dignity and the freedom, taking into consideration all relevant factors. That is a test. That is to say, if you want to limit the rights of the deputy president's right to express himself, it must qualify to this test. Is what he said
What are you reading?
Article 24.
Okay.
Article 24 of the Constitution. Then you must be able to say, is it reasonable? Is this justifiable in an open and democratic society? And the overriding concept of the democratic society is one of the objectives under Article 10 on the principles and values of governance. Democratic concepts and perspectives are mobilized in our country on a ethnic basis. And that is a fact that we must remember. And that is why William Ruto appointed His Excellency, President William Ruto, appointed His Excellency Gachagua to become his running mate because of his ethnic orientation vis-a-vis the power of his votes. Otherwise...
You think that was the key?
Of course. He wanted the 6 million votes. If he did not want that, I am telling you, he would have gone for a Makonde somewhere. He would have gone for a Mwindi somewhere in this republic. They're also Kenyans. He would have gone for a Kuria somewhere. They're also Kenyans. And I will tell you, without blinking and facing the camera, in the unlikely event they succeed in impeaching His Excellency Gachagua, in the unlikely event they succeed, his replacement will come from Mount Kenya region. Why? Because of his of the power of the votes. Finally, so that I can pass over the baton to my colleagues, I am again perplexed by Steve when he says he's a practitioner of the law. Which law he practices?
But you know he is, isn't he?
Yes, he is. But he's forgetting one very major concept. He who alleges must prove. If you allege that the deputy president has accumulated over 5.2 billion, then you must prove how he has alleged he has accumulated it. But now they want to shift the burden of proof.
But they are given the illustrations.
Yes, but on what basis? Based on rumors? Based on whims?
Isn't that the
based on no, it shall be based on speculations, based on anything that will whip emotions. Remember, Kenyans are very allergic to issues of corruption. So if you say, oh, so-and-so is corrupt, so-and-so has accumulated wealth, you'll think you'll whip the emotions of Kenyans so that they can rally behind your motion. So you lose the fact. You lose facts as they are. The only person who can tell us whether that is true or not is a statutory body and the constitutional body mandated to do so. And that's the EACC.
Okay.
They are the recipients of the declarations. Okay. To the best of my ability, Parliament is not the recipient of those declaration forms. Neither is the mover of the motion. So you must... Yeah, they are not the recipient.
Who is?
EACC.
No.
EACC receives and files.
Isn't the custodian the Speaker of the National?
He's a custodian. So he should have told us, at the time of the Deputy President's declaration, this is what he's worth.
Who should tell you that?
Parliament or the mover. Actually, the mover should tell us.
But how do they know? I mean, the custodian is the Speaker.
Perfect. That is, I am saying that the grounds are based on rumors, speculations, and ability to whip emotions. Why? Because we should be having the current wealth declaration, showing that this is what the DP is worth. This is what he was worth yesterday.
Okay, that's fine. Now, we're running out of time.
Yes.
There are some allegations that the Deputy President made calls to the former acting Chief Executive Office of KEMSA in a deal about mosquito nets. And we understand that Andrew Mulwa has filed an affidavit. But I want us to listen also to members of Parliament in Nyeri County who have different views from when they signed that motion.
Our people, when we ask them, they do not see this as a priority. They think there are other priorities that we should be focusing on. And as representatives of the people, I think it behoves upon us to listen to our people and do what they have asked us. So on Tuesday, I will be voting no.
After researching na after kusoma hiyo kitu yote nikaona our deputy president, hii ni kitu wanaweza kaa chini na president wetu wajadiliane, kwa sababu Kenya ni kubwa kuliko sisi wote. Na kwa hivyo ndio sababu nimekuja na tumewasikiza, nimeshida the whole day nikisikiza ground, na watu wa Nyeri wamesema deputy president hawataki atolewe.
I want to make a personal commitment that what the people of Kenya will say is what I'll go with. It has never been that the Member of Parliament have the final say according to the Constitution of 2010.
So, they have listened to the ground. After reading the entire motion, Rehab Mukami believes that those are issues, and after soul searching, those are issues that can be addressed between the president and his deputy. I mean, Fred, what are you hearing? How did they sign a motion that now they don't believe in?
Sam, before I answer that, if you allow me just 1 second to respond to what Wakili Ndegwa said. Wakili Ndegwa has used some statements here. He said the president appointed the deputy. That's not correct. He nominated.
I didn't say that.
He has said that Raila Odinga
and that's not in contention.
Appointed the cabinet secretaries. He was given an opportunity to appoint. Raila Odinga is not an appointing authority.
What was
the
his
president
role?
Is. I don't think Raila has any role in appointing cabinet.
Sorry?
But
sorry, I'm asking, what was his role?
I don't think Raila has any role.
I'm not talking about appointing. What was his role in selection of those nominees?
He has no role.
You think he has none?
I don't think I know.
Why did
he has
the
no
nominees
role.
thank Raila Odinga?
Pardon?
Why did the nominees thank Raila Odinga?
He's their party leader. He was their party leader. But that's not the issue, Sam.
No, it is the issue here.
Some.
Didn't Opio and I thank Raila Odinga for the opportunity?
Some.
Yes.
What I'm saying, Ndegwa said that when Raila was given an opportunity to appoint.
Okay, it's fine.
So
we can scrap appointment.
Yes, that one we have to appoint.
Didn't Raila have an opportunity in picking the nominees from ODM?
I am not aware about that.
You're not aware?
Yes.
Carry on.
The issue, Sam, in the motion, the wording in that motion, particularly on some grounds, has been that the deputy president has been reckless in his statements. He has been unmindful of the high calling and the dignified status of him as a deputy president in making such statements that are potentially inflammatory and can lead to, incitement. Wakili says he talks of the freedom of expression in Article 33. Well, we all agree that the deputy president is free to express himself. The same articles also says that that expression does not extend. It does not extend to what would be considered incitement. I am not the drafter of this motion, but the people who drafted that motion have accused the president that some of the statements he has made...
You mean the deputy president?
Pardon?
You mean the deputy president?
I am saying they have accused him in the motion...
You said president.
The deputy president, sorry, yeah. I've accused him of... some of the statements that he has made are likely to be insightful. So that is an issue that will be substantiated at the Senate. We cannot substantiate it here. And that's why I started by saying, for me, I'll not be very emotional about this thing, but I'll be very objective. So I want to stick to objectivity. Number two, you have talked about the issue of the participation of the people.
Yep.
The members of parliament who signed this motion, I don't want to believe they were coerced. They put their pen onto paper and said they endorse the impeachment motion of the deputy president. When they go back to their people as a requirement of public participation and as a principle of constitution, the people have told them that in our view, we don't think it's a priority. That view, in my view, also should be considered because the principle of public participation is that the views of the public must be factored in the final decision making.
Don't you find a problem with members of parliament coming to say, after reading it, I do not see any ground?
A big one, a very big one. As a member of parliament...
How are those signatures procured?
As a member of parliament, you must have read the motion. You must have heard, you must have discussed for you to append your signature and be convinced that whatever is being proposed, I am convinced as a member of parliament that this is the right way to go.
Did they?
I don't think so. Some of them, I don't think so. Because Wandepe is a friend of mine. If he goes to his people, that is self-preservation. And he says, my people have told me that's not a priority. What is the priority? What is the priority, Sam?
Adan.
Just hold on. Number two,
Adan is one of the priorities.
I am also convinced.
Yeah.
I am also convinced that
student fees is a priority if you do not know.
Let me be civil. Yeah, be civil. We have also to respect that the public have a lot of say in this matter, Sam. The public have a lot of say because it is their representatives that put their signatures. And their representatives must go back to them as a requirement of participation. That what is it? The requirement of public participation, Sam, is that it must be informing. You must inform the public of the issues and timely information. The requirement is that it must be involving. It must be involving in the sense that you must engage the public and explain to them what is it. The requirement of public participation is that it must be consulting. You must consult with them. And then the last one, it must be empowering by putting the authority of decision-making in their hands. That is what it is.
So in that session you attended at Bomas of Kenya, was it informing, involving, explaining, consulting?
I am afraid to tell you that the nature of the crowd that I have seen and that I witnessed in Bomas and elsewhere was not to the extent that anyone, any duty bearer would be informing, involving, engaging, and consulting.
You're blaming the crowd?
Because I'm not blaming the crowd.
Yeah.
I am not blaming the crowd. I am saying, because it's a political process, if a member of parliament is given an opportunity to facilitate the public participation as required by 118, then it means that chances are very likely that they will bring their supporters. Remember, Sam...
So question, because you had Bomas,
yes.
What was the order like? Who informed who about the grounds of impeachment?
I saw the members of parliament from Nairobi informing the public of the issues.
Did they?
Yes, they did. I saw them from the start, they did. And I also saw the public asking questions.
No, before the questions. So they're informing the public on the grounds of impeachment.
You see,
in what format?
In the format that it was tabled. One of the requirements of public participation, Sam, is that the information must be accessible timely to the public. When they gave the public the paper that had got the grounds and the process, then there was an employee of parliament that was going around and taking members before the start of the engagement on the issues on that. I saw that.
How long was that?
But I'm worried. I'm worried that because maybe we don't have national legislation on public participation, people are likely to conduct it in a manner that they feel.
So what I'm asking is, how long was that communication, the paper that was shared?
It was a continuous process.
How long was that page? I mean, how long was that document that was shared with the people?
2 or 3 pages.
2 or 3 pages.
2 or 3 pages.
How long is the motion?
The motion is around 40-something pages. And I think almost 50.
So over 50 pages.
Yes.
So do you think that is reasonable for...
I don't think so. I don't think so. That's why, let me just finish some. And that's why I said the principle of public participation, even though we don't have a national legislation on public participation, but if you look at the case laws, they have actually defined what is meaningful public participation.
All right.
Reasonable access to that process, timely access to the information, and the participation of the people. In my view, I saw also the court moved that, these participation must proceed again to the next day, on 5th, and this time at the level of the constituency. And that's why you find now some members of parliament saying, my people have told me that this is not a priority. I would have wished that we extend the public participation so that we get more views.
Right.
I would have wished.
I hear you, Fred. Let's take a look at the feedback that has come. And just to mention here that the impeachment motion is a whole 57 pages, of course, reduced to 1 page that was published in the dailies on, was it on Thursday or Wednesday? One of the 2 days. I think it was on Thursday, for people to share their views. Kalu Lepario, does an apology suffice in addressing allegations of constitutional violations and corruption, or does true accountability demand more concrete actions from our leaders? Katebes K. It will be a travesty of justice if the legislators do not seriously take the opinion from majority of the public. It is clear this government has lost its popularity. Sir Nixon Dogire, the question we are asking as the public, having been involved in public participation on Gachagua's impeachment, what will happen should the report read that we have said no to it? And who shall it be handed to? Wakili tujibu tu bila uoga.
Yes.
Then Bob Otino was saying the Gachagua impeachment saga is a political hoodwink to divert Kenyans' attention from keeping vigilant on government policies which they were against and execute them unknowingly. Okello Molimi was saying that one would forgive the truthful man for dismissing and ignoring MP's ability to impeach him. The blame would then be shifted to the doorsteps of his advisors who failed to guide him through provisions of Article 150 of the Constitution. They have let him down big time. You don't say who you are. Contradicting also suggests that the president spoke first and the DP later in that chronological order. Shareholders happened before broad-based, and the president never pronounced himself or contradicted Gachagua before. I think there's a short question there about, and I have just 25 seconds for you, Wakili Ogola, on what should the feedback from Kenyans mean, especially if it appears that majority favor don't impeach Gachagua.
If the majority feel DP Gachagua should not be impeached, I think Parliament is duty-bound to take that into consideration. Correct. Because impeachment is both political and legal. And if Parliament wants to proceed with the impeachment, then they must vote on each and every question, each and every allegation that has been framed. If Gachagua is impeached on any of those allegations, and the question finds itself in court, the court will audit whether the decision to impeach on that ground was rational.
Yep.
Whether they agree with it is a separate and distinct question. As long as the court would find it rational, the court would uphold the impeachment regardless of whether they would have reached a different decision.
And that can take a long time, right?
That can take a long time.
All right, your final words, 20 seconds.
Yes, my final words is that the people have spoken and that they are saying we should not be distracted from the real issues. I take from this interview that one of the way in which the deputy president contradicted the president was about the question of Adani, to which I read that council endorses.
Is that in the motion?
No. That is what the contradiction is saying about. You know, he's whipping. Okay. Number two, if we are holding people to account on derogatory statements, hapa tulikuja tukaambiwa mambo ni matatu. Either uende binguni, hiyo ni kukufa unakufa, ama uende jela, ama utoke hapa nchini. So we cannot have selective approach in the manner in which we hold our leaders to account.
Okay.
We must hold them to account holistically. Right. Finally, the public participation, only one thing, the public participation that was done was a sham. Fortunately, it spoke in favor of a no answer. Unfortunately...
Our majority said impeach both.
Impeach both, yes. That's what I'm saying. It was negative. That it never responded.
That means impeach Gachagua.
Correct. No, you see, people have a problem with this administration. And they are simply saying, when they say impeach both, kufa dereva, kufa makanga, they are simply saying the fish rots from the head. So let's evaluate the manner in which this government is run.
Diana, 20 seconds.
Thank you. Mine remains with Kenyans. Thank you for your clarity about what we need in this country. Indeed, our presidency has continued to violate the Constitution. They need to just exit if we've set that standard. I also want to congratulate Parliament for this newfound wisdom to attempt public participation. I hope they have enough secretariat and materials to ensure that they will bring us a very incisive and true analysis. Thank you, Royal Media, for all the live broadcast you have done. We are curating it, and we shall be ready to ensure that the jurisprudence on public participation is strengthened in this country. Now, moving forward, this shift where you want to refund us after we have paid dialysis, can you subject it to public participation so that we tell you whether that is workable? Okay. Stop offending and abusing Kenyans through quote-unquote democratic processes.
Thank you so much. I have to thank all of you. Fred, you already had your final words.
No, I just say that.
Thank you, Wakili. Thank you.
No, I was not here to earn a fees. I am here to execute my patriotic duty as a responsible citizen.
The impeachment of,
I am not here to earn a fee.
Gachagua. My name is Sam Gituku. See you again some other time. Up next is Matters Sporty Monday. The crew is here to talk about the action, but also what to look forward to in the week. Bye for now.